What's up, everybody, and welcome to In Case You Missed It, where I totally don't have rice trying to come through my teeth. We are going to be talking about the last couple of weeks of things that have been going on. In case you missed it, that's the name of the show for a good reason, including Divisional Stars, which was a couple weeks ago.
I was there for that.
Which, if you remember, that was like the All-Stars guy.
Yeah.
We got a lot of players, put them on teams he's not normally ons, and then put them against each other and said, hey, now be better than the other guy or don't.
Some shows don't.
Then we did the Roll Stars. Completely blanked on what Roll Stars was. We did Roll Stars. That was literally this last week where we got to see roles take on each other to see who was the best at being the best, and as well as take on not just like mid versus jungle, but like mid v mid, solo v solo, etc., all that fun stuff. Because we wanted to root down and figure out who the best really was. And unfortunately, we found the answer. But who knows? Maybe it changes week to week as we've seen. It started, though, and hopefully y'all remember this as well as I do. No, let's say it the other way. Hopefully you remember this better than I do. Divisional Stars, because it feels like the All-Stars games were like so long ago. And all I do distinctly remember, and this is actually comes from last week, but I feel like you could apply them to the week before, several times where Mike would probably say, they messed up. We're going 5, we're going 4, we're going 3, et cetera. But we come in, and we've got 4 distinct teams, right? The Minotaurs, the Titans, the Juggernauts, Manticores. I knew it all. Just testing.
He's making sure we knew.
Yeah.
Checks out.
Those 4 teams are filled with, players from across the league voted on both by players and by fans at home that were to comprise like this All-Stars team. And I do remember the last time we did it, in case you missed it, the end of it, because we talked about the gauntlets, the end of it was then, hey, what's happening next? And we were looking ahead to exactly what you would expect, the next thing. And it was, let's find these rosters, let's look at them and determine who we think is going to be the winner. Now, if I remember correctly, and it's only mine that I remember, because that's the only one that I chose Juggernauts. I remember looking at that team, and I remember thinking, those are my guys. They're going to be the ones that came through. My computer logged me out of Discord, and I'm trying to pull up graphics and stuff. So we're making this work slowly but surely, guys.
Maybe on SMITEProLeague.com, your one-stop shop for all things SMITEPro League.
Well, the other thing we can do
these guys.
is also pull it up, which makes it very easy.
Yeah, these dudes.
And so this is the team that I was thinking, hey, you're going to do great, and you're going to go far. And if I remember correctly, they did go far in terms of set length. They did not go far in terms of winning the event. And that's the thing that was really crazy, because you look at this squad, and I don't know about to you, Trelly, but this seems like a squad that should just outright stomp pretty much everybody.
I remember distinctly just not being able to pick one. You put me on the spot. You said, which team do you think is going to be able to make it? And I panicked because I forgot the rosters immediately after they were shown to me, because there's no rhyme or reason to these guys, right? It's like, there's 3 Oni Warriors on my screen. I see Adapting, I see Mike, but then we got 4 teams like that. So this definitely was a team that I might have leaned towards as well had I gathered my thoughts, just because you got Pagan in the mid lane. Adapting has been pretty on point consistently, even though his team wasn't that winning in the previous split. I think that, he should be feeling right at home with Sod and Netra in the side lanes, and then Mike just a really good support.
Yeah.
But hey, sometimes I need a little bit more of that built-up synergy, and they weren't quite able to capitalize on it.
SMH my head. But I do, again, remember how much they were willing to put into it, which was to give us a really good and maybe even sometimes long show by going for quite the distance in their own set. It's a team, though, that in reality, like you said, Trelly, I was expecting to have to talk to all 5 of those guys on that Sunday for the draft show. And I didn't talk to a single one of them instead, which, it happens, but they end up going, I believe they played in the 3rd, 4th, and I'm scrolling up to scoop up that bracket, but those games were. What's the polite way to say it? Goofy,
A little silly.
They were a little
They're
silly.
being little silly gooses.
If y'all want to see some loose Smite, that's some loose Smite. What's crazy is some of it was still 50-minute long loose Smite, which is really funny to think about. And it's really interesting. And J-Mac, I want to ask you about this because it feels like this is how it happens for me. Where we'll talk to these guys and they'll be like, yeah, this is going to be goofy. We're going to fool around. Ha, 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 ha. And then they get in there and like we'll listen to the comms and like those guys are serious.
Yep.
Especially when you get a team like that who you know has a lot of good commerce on it. It feels like that competitive mindset, like it's there, and they're like, haha, we'll lose, but like if we lose, that's going to be a bad idea. And like that's not going to work for you because we're going to win the next one.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those mentalities, like no matter how like silly you make the game, even if there's absolutely nothing on the line for a third, fourth place match, you don't want to be the worst all-star team. It's always a small little bit of ego that pops back in where it's like, okay, we can lose 2-0, but I don't want to lose 2-0 that way, so it's going to be a 2-1 instead if we lose it. You know, we're at least going to take one kind of thing, but it happens with all these kinds of players. Nobody really wants to lose 2-0 or wants to go down 3-0.
Yeah.
So they're going to get a little bit of extra practice. They get to play some extra games of Smite. You know, they're already here. Might as well play as much Smite as they can kind of at that point. But I think you're right to say that games were a little bit more loose. You know, while we were seeing some stranger things from certain players, I'm just going to say Genetics was playing some weird stuff. He was having fun playing the weird stuff. And for some parts of it, it was looking kind of good. There were some not so good. But there was also some good ones that came out. I think the Freya support looked all right. And I'm going to say all right. The Hebo support didn't look all right for like the first 2 games he did it. And then it looked like okay the next one that he went. But overall, I mean, these kind of events, especially at least for the divisional stars, there's not a whole lot on the line for these guys. You know, getting that captain spot is nice, but inevitably you're just kind of picking, okay, which of these 4 guys do I want to try and bring on my team for the week next week? And then when the money comes on the line, that's when the games get a little bit more serious. But anytime you throw like a bunch of big personalities into like adapting, PBM, SOT, you get those kind of minds in there. Mm-hmm. They're going to be talking a mile a minute to make sure that things are taken care of. And even if they're going to play a little sillier, they're still going to make sure that it still stays somewhat serious and competitive.
And unfortunately for them, despite staying, if we want to call that serious and competitive, they pushed the first set they were into 5, lose 2-0 the next day. And so the one that I had voted for and that I know like we were like, I don't want to say like rooting for, but like was the team that I'm like, that's the winners, was last instead. And so that goes to show what I know. They lost to the Titans. And the Titans, because I decided to scroll way too far past their team names, again, full of a lot of players that you would expect, as you had just mentioned, J-Mac, Genetics, who pulled out some interesting supports that weekend. Hebo, Freya, Trelly, you were nodding along happily because you loved every single one of those picks.
Big time.
You can't wait to watch them in the SBL.
Oh, I hope so.
You thought, honestly, you were kind of surprised that after this they were going to be keeping Hurry and Vin, because it felt like those two kings right there just blended so well with the rest of the Ravens that you thought this should have been the team.
Well, you're taking the words right out of my mouth. I tend to agree with all of that. I liked the switch ups. You know, I here's the thing. I'm all for having fun.
Yeah,
but it didn't even look fun. Like Genetics was like 2-8. Like,
we were,
that, you know what I'm saying? Like that's
really rooting for him to get some stacks at one point on the prophetic clip.
Yeah, he bought prophetic at like 12 minutes. And
did
for the
not
next
finish
like
it.
15 minutes, he got like 3 stacks on it. In his words, is as soon as I bought prophetic, they decided to be cowards and never fight me.
He did say they were scared.
They were scared and they did not want to fight. And you know what? I don't want to fight a Hebo either.
I saw his old hit late game for 300. I think.
I don't think he was putting points in it, to be fair.
That's fair. Maybe you need the carpet. I guess that's your best slow. You know, is your best engage for the team. But I'm all for having fun. It didn't even look fun as far as I saw. Freya looked fun. The Freya looked fun.
He did do good.
Hebo did not.
He has one of my favorite plays at the event, not because it was a good play, because it was just like that power move play where he like whooped somebody at the back chest camp, and then he already had his range auto active, and then he blinked for to get melee range just because he could. It was one of those standout plays where, again, it didn't net him anything. It wasn't even that it looked cool. It's just that he did it for the power move.
And J-Mac, what is an All-Stars for if not just power moves? Yeah, that's
saying
right.
that, for
Yeah,
saying
did you
his-
hear that silence? Did you hear that answer?
You know what?
That's what.
He's
Nothing.
right. He's right. It's all about the power move.
Look, that was a team. Again, it was really fun to watch them. They lost to the Manticores, who looked really good the day before, which again maybe makes sense when we look at some of them. Although it was really surprising to see the Manticores come through. And of course, the Minotaurs, I think, who looked good, were the other two teams that were there. They lost to the Manticores 3-1, beat the Juggernauts 2-0. So that's the roll that came through. Which I guess leads us to the Manticores themselves, the team that was able to beat the Titans. This is actually working out like a good little snake for me. Look, I think you've got maybe the one that feels the most all-starry of all-stars, where it's you've got a lot of big names on here, but you also have a very like wide variety of like teammates. Which I guess is also maybe not as much true, because just because Dardes is wearing a Warriors jersey,
Vote really should have had his for this picture.
yeah,
That was
it
so
would have been
good.
so funny. Vote, who was a previous Warrior. Jake, also a previous Warrior. Dardes, who was a previous Warrior. Panatom, who is a current Warrior. And Finoke, who
just
said
happy
he's
to be
going to
there.
be
Who's
trying
leaving the
out.
Leviathans to join the Warriors the minute he gets the opportunity. It was really fun to watch these guys play. On Saturday, they kind of killed it. On Sunday, they only won the one.
They got killed.
They got killed. And I'm trying to, you know what? I'm going to go to their finals game, because I remember them playing some goofy stuff. This is also like the
Jake
week
went try
before.
hard every game except for the Scylla. I remember the Scylla in particular, where it seemed like there was going to be a 3-0,
Yeah.
and then Jake went Scylla, and the set ended up
I
going
do remember
a lot
that.
longer. And Barra came out and said, I can't believe they troll picked on us, and that was the end of it.
That was the end of it. Yeah, I looked it up. Game 1 immediately was like Geb for him. Game 2, they lost that one though, and I'm looking at finals. Game 2, I'm gonna be real with you. I guess it was the Horus, because we got a Neith, Freya, Horus, Wukong, Agni. It was before we did the thing this last weekend where it was like the sealed draft, so like they were just able to pick whatever they wanted. And it gave us some goofy games. But I guess the question that comes to my mind when you look at this crew is, was that a second place team? Like, did you see them? You looked at that and you went, yeah, that's second place in the All-Stars.
No, I see Panatom and Jake on a team, and this is not to discredit the other three, but I see
It is to
those
discredit
two,
the other three.
and that should just be a team that is not only making finals, but probably winning finals.
Dead
And then you also throw the other three people who are with them.
Yeah, you put those two, they should be winning. You add the other three though,
They should be winning.
they should be losing.
That should be
everything.
Capital, bold, italicized, should be winning that one. But sometimes you just get a little outplayed more than anything. You try and have a little bit of fun.
Outgamed,
You get a little bit outgamed,
outbrained.
Outgamed,
Outfit.
outbrained, outlamed.
outlaned. Yep. Wasn't a great end there. That was a good one though. No, I mean I look at this team. With Panatom, he was debated as probably the best jungler in the league, at least for this split. Over the course of his career, he's always might have been up in that conversation. Jake, I think, was definitely one of the best supports, if not the number one, over the course of phase number 1, even with the loss in the finals to the Ferryman. Jake defined a meta in the SPL, gaslit the entire league into believing that was how the meta was to be played. Nobody else was able to match the performance that he had over the course, and even though he had a loss in the finals, he still looked good during that one. I think he got trolled maybe a little bit by his team during that. There was some questionable plays over the course of that finals, but I mean,
He jumped a lot.
he jumped a lot. He also got walled by SOT at one point.
I mean,
and I remember looking over at Jake's player cam, you just kind of see that, all right, gonna be one of those ones.
Yep.
And then they were able to reset themselves. But no, I mean, then you take Final K. He's been one of the best role players, at least over in his spot. Dart has always been consistent over in the mid lane. Vote always been really good over in that ADC role. So I look at this team and I see at least two players who have been together for the course of a phase, who have that synergy together, know what they want to do. And when you talk about that mid 3v3, it's your jungle and your support jumping in with your mid laner. Well, if you have two of them who have been doing that for a whole course of a phase, that should just be a nice and a quick dub for these guys. But just unfortunately weren't able to break through at the very end there. But no, I mean, I think over the course of all of
More
this,
Scylla support. That's what I'm really learning from this conversation.
we also learned that there are two sides to Jake's Geb. There is the I'm going to carry this game Geb, or the my team wants to find me Geb.
Yeah, and we got a lot of like carry me Geb this weekend, and I'm wondering if that's going to translate to any game over phase 2, or if maybe he's going to get fined because he The last team that was on that list though, Minotaurs, who ended up being the victors of the whole event. Baskin, great player. Oath, guess what? Great player. Vin, you can never guess it. Great player. Hurry, smart player, great player. And Vapourish Coast bodies people constantly.
Puts him in a body bag.
Puts him in a body bag.
On the
in
world
the
stage
ground.
even at one point.
Look, this team, there's a lot of fun things they did. I like watching Coast play. I think actually what I learned this weekend and the Roll Stars weekend was like just watching Coast play in carry is fun. Watching Coast play in jungle is also still pretty fun, but I like him most in carry. And I can't believe, I think it was for Roll Stars. I believe he was on Bear's team. I have the rosters a little lower, but
No, he was against Barra. He
was-
explicitly
had a lot
said
of-
in the post-game interview, I want to body
and he
Barra.
said I own that guy.
Yep. I believe he
On
said that
Twitter, I remember
fraud.
that.
I
Yeah.
believe that was the
Yeah,
fool.
yeah.
I like to study the roster photos just because I think you learn a lot from the poses, and I'm not sure if Oath was going for like playful, like it's not quite a smile. It's not like the Baskin look where it's like aggressive.
Yeah, Vin's just like there.
Yeah,
Hurry looks a little tired.
like Hurry's aggressive, like but I don't know what Oath's going for. Looks like he was about to say something, and then Tristan or Jordan were like, next, and just took the finger, and this is what we get.
He ate something sour right before the photo and kind of puckered up a little bit.
But Shelly, this team,
You want to eat these Sour Patch Kids before you go out for your picture? Sure, man.
they
Got some lemon heads.
they had a pretty long set up against the guys right before them, the Juggernauts. As quoted in post-game interviews, they lost game 1. And so the reason it goes like they quote unquote violated the unspoken rule according to the players by going and not only winning game 2 but kind of trashing them in game 2. And then and that's where we got the full lockdown where we go to 5 games because all of a sudden they presented a challenge. And specifically they threw down that challenge at the feet of PBM and adapting. I think the other 3 probably would have looked over it, but those 2 wouldn't. And so what we got was a very intense like set as it went on. None of the games were like excruciatingly long, right? You got a 40-minute one at the very beginning, and then the next highest was 31 minutes. Everything else was 27 or lower. And so the team knew what they wanted to do, knew what they were getting in there to do, and then gave us a full-on like all-stars battle to remember up against the Juggernauts themselves. And J-Mac, it was a treat to watch.
Yeah, these are some of the events where like it might not be as competitive as like a best of 5 actual SPL game, where they have their regular season or a playoffs kind of match.
I don't know. Did you see
But
those
this
Worlds
was-
finals where Kings just kind of smackered the other dudes?
Right, but I'm saying like if
Ferryman
you're
and
watching like
Masters where they just
your
smack the
average
Warriors.
your average best of 5, it's going to be back and forth competitive nature. You go back to let's even just say Master semifinals. You get that Hounds Ferryman game. That is like your peak Smite style of play
a
where
good set.
yes, every single game is going 40 plus minutes. But it is balanced on a knife's edge the entire way through. You may have a little bit more action. The early game, it might slam more towards the mid or the late game. But those are like the peak style of Smite is those Master semifinals. Then you get to these ones, and you can call it kind of that step below. It's still very competitive. The games are maybe a little bit faster. There's probably going to be quite a bit more kills than you would see in your average game. But it's still fun Smite to watch. And that's the kind of beauty of some of these events is they may not be the best games. They may not be the most fun games to necessarily play in sometimes maybe, but they are really fun to watch because it is just 5 guys who realize there's not a whole lot on the line. We can just be a little bit sillier. We can just kind of run it down a little bit more if we want to, and we're going to do just that. We're going to hit that W key. We're going to pick the gods that we're really good at, and we're just going to play a game of Smite. And that's what we got for pretty much all of that event. The Roll Stars was very similar in that regard. But then you also just get a whole bunch of like blending of personalities with these guys.
Yeah.
I feel that amongst the team, this is probably equally one of the quieter teams, but also one of the louder teams. And I say that specifically because you have Vapourish Coast on the far side. He is one of the loudest players when it comes to anything. I think that just comes from his days of being a console player, and all of those guys are just naturally louder. I mean, if you sit in any console event, those people are yelling. They get a single kill on you. They get a 3v1 kill on you. You better believe that if you are against one of those guys in lane, that person is going to sit there and spam taunt you. And that's just the kind of nature of Vapourish Coast. I think there was one point where we panned into Coast and he got a kill and he didn't laugh or taunt or anything. And I just went, is Coast okay? Is he sick? Like, what's happening? Because normally Coast gets a solo kill.
He's the taunt guy.
Especially if he gets it against his lane opponent. he's going to spam taunt on your body. He's going to laugh. He's going to make those, he's going to hit VT, VL, and you're going to feel that. But there was one time where Coast didn't, and we just sat there and went, is he okay? Is he sick? Did his buttons get unbound? Like, what's happening with it? But overall, this is just a very fun team to watch, a very mechanically gifted team as well. I think Hurrywin is a good mind for this team to really hold them all together in the drafts, because Baskin can play just about whatever he wants. Oath has 10, 15 different picks he can throw in the jungle no matter where you end up having to slot him there. Venenu continued to show his diversity over the course of the event. In fact, so far as to where he actually got like a pretty hard targeted ban of the new wall at him multiple times. He was like the only one playing it, but he was playing it well enough that people were just banning that one out there. And you get Hurrywin and Coach, you really can't stop that kind of a duo lane. So not surprised that this is the team that win. I think you could have told me that any of these 4 divisional star teams were going to get a win or did win, and I would believe you.
Yeah, that means they did a great job picking all-stars. if you saw one team and you thought, those guys are bozos, what are they doing here? We probably messed something up.
Yeah, so I mean, this is just a really fun event. I highly recommend everyone go, youtube.com/SmiteVod, watch all the divisional stars stuff. And then I think we also put the draft show up on SMITEPro on YouTube. So watch the SMITEPro because you get to watch like a little bit of the banter between the two teams at the very end. Specifically watch it for Coast and how he talked about how he wanted to body Barracuda the entire time, and
that fraud.
He wanted to own that fraud.
Yep.
He refused to put him on a team with him because he wanted to do that. You even asked, what about Barracuda? I know you got some blood between you. Yeah, I'm not picking that guy.
Yeah,
someone else is gonna have to pick him up because it ain't gonna be me.
I just wish we got to hear Barra's side. Like, that guy's still in diapers. Who cares? Like, he's a child, Like the old man versus the kid dynamic.
I imagine
we always hear the old man banter. We never get to see someone roasting like a child.
Yeah.
It's frowned upon.
I like to imagine
Who
that.
would imagine you can't beat up kids?
I didn't say beat up. I said banter.
Right.
If Coast calls him a fraud and an old man and says, go get your walker, surely Barra can say, is your mom coming to pick you up from the
here's your
studio?
bottle, you little baby.
Exactly, yeah. I'm all for it.
I like to imagine Barracuda hears, I want to own that fraud. And Barra's just like, who is this guy? Like, what is it? Like, he's just sitting there
Barra
like,
just looks down at his ring and goes, yeah, fraud, huh?
yeah. While he's sitting there just petting Hamlet aside, just like, I don't know what this guy's talking about.
I won before you knew how to walk.
That might not be too far off.
Yeah. Wait.
Like 10 years ago? Must have been
Barra
close.
Don't make me feel old. I was there.
Coast isn't that young. Like, he's young, but he's not like learning how to walk when Barra's earning a
what
ring.
I'm learning
young.
I
right
said
now,
not that far off.
Live unfolding. I don't know how old Coast is.
I think
I know he
He
pentakilled.
pented Mifflin when he was 14.
Okay, so
I want to say he's.
that would have been what, 2017?
My guess is he's somewhere around like 20 or 21. That's my guess.
No, there is no way. His age starts with a 1. I am sure of it.
No, I think he is just breaking into the 2s.
I'll tweet at him right now. Hey, bro, how old are you? And we can get this answer.
Hey, Porsche Coast, can we get an answer on this? Trelly is messaging you right now. I don't know if
Happening
you
live.
can even hear us.
Well, while Trelly gets Porsche Coast's age, I'm sure someone in this building knows it.
Surely
dude.
someone
Okay, well,
in
he's
the-
going to tweet it anyway.
I
know we
it might
have,
be on the esports wiki.
Yeah, I
Probably
figured
is
I
on
can
the
find it without asking him. It'll be okay.
which maybe makes things less awkward for him. But while Trelly looks that down, I know we have some reels for this, and I want to watch throughout these because it's going to be, like teams on teams on teams on teams, kills on kills on kills, et cetera, but while those play, I want to kind of pick your brains for the god player combo or a god that surprised you the most for all stars, and then maybe a god that you were surprised you didn't see as often for Roll Stars. Mine would have to be up front. Vin playing a ton of new WoW. And when I say a ton, I mean a ton. Like, that guy was playing a lot of new WoW, and to the point where it was getting banned from him. I remember the conversation was, Vin, you're playing a lot of new WoW.
We don't have that information.
No?
Nope. I checked the esport.
That
Not our stuff. I checked the wiki one, and
Yeah.
it's just we have his birthday. It was in April. Happy birthday, Coast. But
Yeah. Happy birthday 4
he's
months ago.
20 at the max. That's all I'll say. That's my guess.
To go back to your question.
Yeah, new WoW played a lot. Vin got it banned from him. That was my point.
I'm going to say I was surprised how much Baskin really wanted to play Opwash.
Yeah.
Because playing Opwash solo, depending on what they're playing, has got to be miserable. And the fact that he went to it 3 times shows determination. But I think it was also just that I'm not going to leave without at least one win. At one point, he was talking about wanting to even the record, so go 2-2. That didn't happen because he didn't get a chance to play in his last game. He got his one win and called it good there. Because most of the matchups he was playing into were not favorable Opwash matchups, especially whenever you take some of the picks in the jungle that were around him. Not a good time for a mage solo who's not necessarily building the tankiest either. He was building like 2-3 defense items, then going damage beyond there. But it worked out fairly well. Even in the games that he was losing, I never sat there and went, man, this is Baskin's fault for picking Opwash. How could he cost his team the game? Because he was doing a lot of damage. He was soaking a lot of damage as well. People were trying to focus the Opwash. And he created so much zone, especially around like beacon fights. I think is where like the Opwash really performed well was, hey, there's going to be 10 people grouping up for this beacon. What if I just empty the crypts on everybody on the map right now, and now nobody wants to fight into us? I think that's the one that surprised me the most there. I think the least surprised it was by anything FineOK picked, because he is just a guy who refuses.
This is the highlight of the century.
This was the best play of the entire event.
Poor Jake.
Poor Jake. He had the shield on. He could have blinked in while the shield was still active, and he didn't.
He could have done many things.
He also could have just not blinked in a Dharmic Pillar.
Yep.
But he chose to do. He chose to
claims
blink.
He was worried about the new owl and all this. No, we know what you did. You wanted to die, and you blinked into the Dharmic Pillar. Unlucky. You'll get him next time.
Did he? Was that the plan, Charlie?
I don't know what his plan was.
I don't think any of us. I don't even think he knows what his plan really was. I think he just made up a plan on the spot.
I remember asking someone after the game in the interview, and they were like, "Oh, is that what happened? Is that what he did? We saw him die. We didn't know what killed him."
Yeah, they were like, "Yeah, we just saw like he died."
Yeah,
and they were like, "We didn't hit him with the snipes, so like we had no idea what had happened." It's like, no, he blinked.
Blinked in a pillar.
He blinked into his demise. Man, poor Jake. I feel so. Man, I don't feel bad. You're the one that made the play, so I'm not. I don't feel bad, but
get caught in 4K.
It was a big old oof. I think that was just Manticores. I think we have more Minotaurs, Titans, etc., etc. Shelly.
Yeah.
I know you were a big fan of a lot of the God player combinations we got.
Of course.
I saw one of those in there was Haddix on Ao Kuang. Genetics bringing in the Hebo. So which one did you maybe like the most? Which one did you dislike the most?
I will say the Sot Thanatos made the games very exciting. He got big high kill games, and because of that, it made the more action. If we're going to 50 minutes, I'm gonna like the guy that's getting as many kills as possible. I was gonna say Stewart, but I know that was in Roll Stars, so that we haven't jumped to that yet.
Yeah,
I did like the Stewart set.
Yo, I like that tease though.
Yeah, eventually we'll talk about that.
I mean, if you want, for honesty, what we could do here, probably just go towards that, because
hop on a two-legged scooter.
If you were curious,
a Segway.
What was
why does your scooter or Segway have legs? What happened to your Segway to give it legs?
What you mean
wheels?
Scooter, and then it's got. Well, all scooters have two wheels.
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to break down your analogy here, or your whatever you're gonna call it here.
A two-wheeled scooter is not a Segway.
I want to pull back the curtain a little bit and point out the Warriors were supposed to be here today. So if you were wondering, man, this show feels weird, it's got a weird energy. Oops. They were going to come in, unfortunately not feeling too well. But that maybe explains a teensy bit. I'm a little, I can like the legs of the scooter.
Yeah, I mean,
a Segway.
The difference between a scooter and a Segway is the legs.
Got legs.
Exactly.
And a scooter.
One stands, one you
leg.
stand on.
Do Segways stand on their own?
Yeah, they just be standing.
Nice.
Scooters, you have to lean them up against something to stand.
Have you ever ridden a Segway? This is our Segway section of the
I have not.
show.
There was. I
wish
wish.
into the rest.
I wish I could say that I have. There was
I've
a place.
seen a lot of people. Well, I say a lot. I've seen
Mall cops.
Nabil. Well, I was actually thinking at Worlds. Nabil would always. He had a Segway. Period. That's how Worlds happen.
Owning a Segway and not being a mall cop is dope, because that's the only reason you would get one.
Is that you're a mall cop?
There was.
Why else would you have one?
If you're not Paul Blart.
Yeah, and now I want to watch that
At my
movie.
mall
See
back
if it holds
home,
up.
they had a Segway racetrack. I unfortunately never got to go in there. but they had like a whole racetrack set up and it was just segways.
Dude, imagine having
And
enough
that sounds like
money
that'd be
to
so much
own a
fun.
Segway.
Let's
and
ride that Segway
Yeah,
into
we're gonna ride
Roll
the
Stars.
Roll Stars. Yeah, so hey, what did they win for winning the divisional All-Stars? Well, they won the right to draft teams for All-Stars. So you had 10 players. The first pick was team number 1, who wins. Second pick, team number 2. And so those would each get 2 solos, 2 jungles, 2 mids, 2 supports, 2 carry teams, which we're going to go through now. And so starting with support, not only the teams that were drafted, but then I guess we can touch a little bit on how they did, which I'll start. Not great.
No.
They lost. They did not make it past the
First day.
the first day. They were the first role eliminated. That being said, Awesome Jake 408, highest individual kill count that we've had in any event that we've held, at 28 kills. And in that game to get those 28 kills, J-Mac, he got 2 pentas. That's crazy.
I don't know.
And then they lost.
Then they lost. He also did get a triple double, which we had to add in. That was the trifecta. You know, when we got into like the role versus roles, we had, you know, three conditions we wanted to see in all those games: high kill count, triple doubles, and pentakills. And Jake gave us all 3 of those in one game. We saw high kill games all the way across. We saw a bunch of near pentas. I think only him and Haddix, I want to say, were players that got penta. I think it was on the Alquan game that Haddix was able to pull
Aegon
one
got
out.
double back-to-back quadras, but, you know,
Not as
who
cool.
cares?
But yeah, not as cool as a
got
double
double penta.
back-to-back pentas.
Jake killed the whole team twice.
Yeah. And then still got 18 more kills after that, which is crazy to think. No, that was... While the supports against other roles didn't do very good, the supports against each other was a very fun set to watch. I think that was our only role versus role that went all 3. And also, peel back turn a little bit, we also had, you know, a couple of the production members jumping in and also joining in on some of those ones. We had our newest caster, Frog, play with the support team. I believe he played with the Roar squad.
Yeah.
Then we had
That guy in the bottom right.
Well, technically, Bobby's the newest caster.
True. Bobby is the newest one. He did get announced a day later, so he would be our newest
So
one.
Frog was the new guy for one day.
Frog got one day of being the new guy, and now it's already back to Bobby. But no, I mean, this is just a fun matchup to watch. It's kind of one of those cases where, like, Jake got that record. Probably nobody will ever take that record away from Jake until we get another event
Next
like
Roll
this.
Stars, yep.
We'll unlikely never see another double pentakill. It's very rare we ever see a single pentakill, like, in an entire year. Sometimes we'll go before we see one. Think back, what was it, season 8?
Penta's
We got
usually
one
in the game.
We got one penta. That was Johnny on Hunbats. And we didn't see any other pentas for all of season 8. Season 9, we saw a couple in the SEC. We saw a couple in the SPL. They're very rare. They're very hard to come by. And like you said, usually you're ending the game there. But the fact that Jake got 2 in one game and 28 kills, playing his Thanatos jungle, so he's off-rolling and just says, I want to play a kill-happy god, did so. Very entertaining game, 100%. If you want to watch one game for just, like, silly but, like, chaotic, go back and watch that one. Support versus supports, game 2.
I mean, 8 people were off rolling, so it wasn't like that cool. You said he was off rolling. I'm gonna say.
I mean, yeah,
they're all support.
I guess
Someone had to
I guess 8 people were off rolling.
And the 2
Jake's
that
the only-
weren't should be ashamed.
Jake's the only one that got 10 kills in 2 fights.
So it's weird because, like, when Frog stepped in on that team, he did support for game number 1. It looked really good, and then he went into jungle on the game that Jake popped off, and it wasn't as great. And I think they put him back in support after that. I can't remember if he went back to support or jungle for that game 3 for Frog, but
I remember he lost it
yeah, he didn't win game 3 either.
because we were keeping track. If you end that day when high-res associated people were put into the games, at the end of the day it was 3-2. They had 3 wins, 2 losses. So in a best of 5,
we came out on
we
top.
would have won.
High-res wins, and that's the important thing.
Also, you can catch, I think all of these are now, I was double checking. I was on Smite VOD like yesterday.
Yeah, I think they are.
Or I was looking at something, I can't even remember, but they're all up there. So you can watch them. And if they're on my cast, leave like nice comments. I just need those. That's a personal request. That has nothing to do with it.
You can leave negative on mine. I need it. I'm a
Wait.
worse person than you think.
But
Like make sure you
negative
specify
about Trelly.
Yeah,
not, like,
specify
don't
it.
go to Trelly casts where he's casting with me and then talk bad about me.
No, don't
Say,
do that.
man, Gore's great, but
No,
Trelly
I want you to
stinks."
be negative
Angry face.
only when Gore's with me.
Which shows than
Man,
anyone
Shelly's
else.
like a really good caster, except when he's with this gore guy. So
so
that
crazy.
dude's
He's
like bringing him
just like,
down.
Man, unlucky. Please be nice.
Unironically, there
Good
are
job.
definitely people who have said that probably.
People say weird things.
Yeah, they don't like me.
People really like to dig way deeper than any kind of like actual conversation is. Like I remember there were points where like Miff would like cut jokes or something like that with somebody, and like nobody would respond back and say, "God, that guy hates Mifflin." It's like, it's like no, we weren't responding to it. It's like there's no like
I
bad.
do-
blood
Well,
going
okay,
on.
but hold on, guys. There's a reason Mifflin's not here. We hate him.
I do hate Mifflin. You'll never see me cast with him. That's the reason why.
Yeah.
Not
Shelly-
because
I've never-
weird.
I've
he
never
comes to me
seen it.
every single week and he goes, "No cast with Mifflin this week, right?" And I go like, "No," and he goes, "Thank God."
yeah, it's not because we do the same job. It's because I hate him.
Yeah, it's exclusively, and he makes it very clear. I have to put it on the schedule he asked for. I don't get it.
In parentheses, Trelly hates Miff.
I will
Mid. We got to talk
There is
about
another
the
role,
teams.
I'm sure.
We've got
mids.
11 minutes to go through
Oh.
8 more teams.
man.
Easy. There's two at
Oh.
a time. Next.
Yeah, okay, so
These
mid
guys
laners.
lost.
Yeah, supports, they lost day one. Mid laners, Duo Q, Bruise Brothers. Duo Q was the one everyone coming into this thought was going to be the victors. They were not the victors. In fact, they didn't even make it to finals.
There are 0 people named Victor on their team.
Bruise Brothers won set 1, and then lost to solo laners. Duo Q, I believe, won set 1, and then lost to solo laners.
Yeah.
So if we learned anything this weekend, it's that while all of these teams, and specifically the one on the right, seemed a little more busted, solo lane owns mid pretty easy.
I mean, they
Rent-free.
had 2 Qs. I cannot believe that.
Yeah.
They did give me what I thought. I'm gonna, after we were talking about being nice, I'm gonna toot my own horn here, which is one of the comms or calls that I had was Duo Q holding the key next to Q, and it's all W.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a
That
good
was
one.
pretty good.
I wouldn't even have known that. I'd have to look at the keyboard and go, "What's he talking about? Q?" And then I would have.
Cordy,
clicks.
brother.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Every
now.
single person in chat looked down at their keyboard and went, "He's right. That's
right.
so good."
They would. They said he's.
Why were they holding tab?
This Gormeister guy has no clue what he's talking about.
But yeah, between these two teams, I was kind of surprised to see. Okay, I guess we got 2 moments that were very funny to me. One is that we got to see Vin's team, which was Duo Q. I think just looked good. It was fun to watch, right? And you got a moment, I believe, against Sino and Snoopy, where Sino killed Snoopy, laughed, and said, "Can't believe this dude used to play carry."
Those were good.
The other side was funny for maybe the opposite reason, which is Bruise Brothers. They made me laugh because every time we went to those comms, it was dead
Not a word.
silence. Not a single word coming from those guys.
I mean, if I look at that team, that looks like a bunch of guys that are just gonna do their job
They're just gaming.
and not say a word. Yep.
I feel, I can't remember who was out, but I know Vile stepped in. And I remember when we would jump over to those comms, like on any of these teams, there were like just certain times where you just wouldn't hear anything. It was just dead silence. But would make it really funny to me, and J-Mac, you probably at least experienced a little bit of this, the build up to it. If we're going for an end call, and so I'm like ready to lay out the hype, where it's like Duo Q are running it down into the Titan, they're gonna find the win, and let's listen in. And then you get in there, and it's just we got beats. I'm a little low.
It's tight.
And that, honestly, I might have said too many words there for some of those teams. It was really fun to listen to them. But Shelly, you like to play in mid sometimes. Are you surprised they ended up losing as early as they did?
I am. I was expecting more. I think the the issue here was that the mid laners split apart their talent a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I think they needed, if they had one stacked mid roster, I think they would have had a better shot.
What's your dream mid roster?
That's a tough one. If Ven and
Pagon, Benny.
if Ven and Dardez are both still the captains, they have to be on separate teams. Then I don't know, man.
I'm keeping Pagon, Benny, Vin.
I'm pushing Paul Sheen. I'm pushing Paul Shinto onto Ven's team. There's your stacker.
I don't know, man. I think
Shinto's solo was clean.
that's fair.
Oh yeah, maybe we drop Benny. That guy, he played one really good Atlas game
think
and then
he
dropped.
can-
Oh yeah,
some
he
stinkers.
Well, I
did
think-
drop the Guardian
No,
surprise.
I think
forgot
I
about
think you
that.
can still keep Benny, move him over to ADC like he used to play, or maybe just put him in support with Paul. But I think you move Shinto onto that roster. I think you move Paul on that roster because no matter what, Paul's just gonna have a game.
All I know
Nice.
is that if the time that you gave us is accurate, we spent too much time on mid laners.
Yeah, and it was accurate, actually, by the way. 7 minutes now.
Okay.
So we can talk about solo lane.
2 minutes each. Let's go.
Solo, the teams that come in, theoretically, were the teams that were touted to win. They won the last event. Everybody's like, it's going to be those guys.
Yep.
You got Baskin's team. You got Fine OK's team. Trelly, what you just said, and J-Mac, what Trelly just said was true, and a lot of people were saying that about solo lane, which was you've got a lot of great mechanical players, but they're separated. They're not on the same team, and that might have actually hurt the role as a whole, separating them into two teams.
Yeah, and then it's also kind of the case of how many of these ones are actually going to properly off-roll afterwards. I think that Baskin's team showed that they're probably better in that off-rolling spot than Fine OK's team, but I think overall, like, again, it's a lot of good mechanical players. It's just, what are you going to have them play once you move them outside of their role? Are they going to play the standard? Are they going to play, something a little bit wilder out there?
Yeah.
I was
Ducky
really
looked
impressed
great
by
in
Ducky. I was going to say, Ducky's support gameplay actually really surprised me, so much so that he actually got a targeted Ares ban at him consistently, so he brings that out one game. He shows how good he is. I think overall, the very end of this event just showed me that there are a lot of players who have the capability to play other roles if desperate times call for desperate measures.
And you know what? That's what we kind of got from, actually, I think it's people who are on the next list here. Since we looked at solo, we can just move on to carries, because you had mentioned like looking good in other roles. I think Stu has to come up.
Yeah.
Because, the MBKs, hold on, we got to throw it out there. Vote's team made it to finals, and they looked really
NBLs.
good. They took it to 5, but they have been since rebranded as the NBLs, thanks to Lasbra, who beat them.
Such a good call in game one.
And they're a good team, right? You got some good players on there. It's surprising that you made it all the way up there, I think, in some eyes, knowing that you had 2 SCC guys, Davey and Streak Up, coming in. But it's Stu Shelley that I think really stole the limelight the weekend, because he was just killing people.
Yeah, so I will give Stu credit for popping off on set, having a good time. But I that God plays himself. If it was just the set pop off, I would not give him that much. But he did have.
So when I'm bad at set, what are you saying about me now?
You are not allowed. No one's allowed to be bad at set. But he had repeat performances. Stu was not just popping off on the set. He cemented himself as a pretty solid mid laner. He earned the respect of everyone watching, not the set game, the other games.
Yeah,
for sure.
In fact, for some of it, he looked better than the actual mid laners playing their on roll.
Also, do got to shout that Stu did get the most kills in the SPL in a single game. And then literally the next set, he lost that record to Awesome Jake. So he held on to it for exactly 2 hours, maybe.
Which is crazy. Also, Hardcore got soloed by Shinto, which was very
poetic.
That was
poetic,
fun,
I guess.
Fun to watch.
Interesting, World's MVP versus the guy who was on his team, but also who had played solo. Shinto had played it way, way, way back when. It was fun to watch. Again, the NBLs on the other side, those guys, they did make it to finals, and they did technically push it to a game 5, which made it very fun, I think, to watch and very entertaining. But Trelly, they still lost.
They did.
And the team they lost to was on the next role, and the last role, which was the Junglers. And very specifically, not Nacho Gang. Nacho Gang, for those wondering, was Panatom's team. Sino, Worst Turtle, Sam, Twig joining him. They got eliminated pretty quick. They were out, I believe, day 1. But then beat Revenge Tour in the one-on-one jungle v jungle.
And claimed that they should have been in the finals and that Revenge Tour was trash.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
But then, assuming, I must have felt happy that Revenge Tour J-Mac ended up winning the whole thing. Oath, Lasber, Kierme, Adapting, Scream. Got a little shaky in the middle of that set for them, but they still managed to hold out.
Yeah, I think this comes down to, especially for game number 5, the role swap and kind of the different change of pace, I think is how Oath described it. He said, we're doing fine with me playing in the mid, adapting the jungle, but we're going to do, a swap in game number 5. We want to make sure that we can get that win, and that change of pace was just exactly what they need. You put Oath on a hyper carry style of pick, especially when you get game 5 in these sealed draft formats. We were hyping up, what could happen in a game 5 when you get there. You have 40 gods that are automatically banned away that you can't play anymore. Then you have your 10 gods that are banned through the actual drafting portion of the phase. And then you have your 10. So you see 60 god images pop up on the screen there. And that's, especially in those game 5s, where it really gets down to the nitty gritty. How good are you at multiple different gods? And there may have been, a joking claim that said, Oath ran out of mid lane gods, so that's why he went to the jungle. He claims that he had another 10 or 15 that he still could have gone towards.
Yeah.
But him moving to the jungle, I think, was a good change of pace. It was starting to get kind of, I don't want to necessarily say formulaic, but it was kind of getting to feel a little bit that way for the team. They were trying to just going through the motions. So swapping up their hyper carry to being that Bakasura there really worked out well for his team.
I would say the moment the set was over was when Scream announced very publicly that they couldn't handle the Scrubus.
I was thinking the same thing.
Now, if you don't know what the Scrubus is,
go back and watch Game 3.
Or, even better, I could ring you up a text from my mom who was watching and also didn't know. And she said, and I quote, "LOL, what is Scubus?" Or Scrubus, not sure. I said, "His name is Scream and he played Anubis. So we call it the Scrubus." And she said, "Haha, too much. I was cracking up." So if you don't know about the Scrubus, you and my mom now both do.
I can't remember this last Worlds. This is look, I know tickets sold out, but if you're looking forward to Worlds and you want something, last Worlds I got somehow brought into a conversation with Dave's parents and his brother and your parents. Nobody, you or Dave, neither of you were there. I was just brought into a conversation with the parents. I had a good time up until it was like, oh wait, it's 3 minutes until the next desk. I need to run across the building. Oops. Made it there in time though. Really nice people, both your parents, Dave's parents, and Dave's brother. And so there you go. My parents, if I'm being honest, will not be there. They do not want to make the trek. I don't think they've watched a game since I got hired, but
My parents were, but the tickets sold out too quick.
see,
I sent him a message. They said, "Oh, Dad and I will talk about this over dinner." I'm like, I don't think the tickets are going to be available by that point.
No,
Said,
and
well,
they
we need to
weren't.
talk still. And then she texted me at like 8 p.m. It's like, hey, we tried to buy tickets there. I'm like, yeah, they sold out already.
and I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked everybody else. What's it like to have parents that like my parents support me, but like, what's it like to have actually feel and visualize and know that support's there? And that's something that I can ponder over
Later.
a 5-minute break, because what we're going to do is close in case you missed it. So thanks for hanging out, guys, and filling an hour. If you're watching this live, then what's going to be coming up next is the Dev Insight. If you're not watching this live, thanks, man. Like I appreciate that. Catching up on some for fun events. What's going to be coming up next is going to be like not next immediately next, but like for SBL, it's going to be the kickoff tournament leading into phase 2. A lot of the like serious lockdown, best of 5s every day. It's going to change a lot, and I'm really excited for it. I'm sure everybody is. So if you've been tuning in, thanks for watching, and if you're here live, stick around for Dev Insight. But again, it's been Gore, Trelly, J-Mac, and we'll see you next time.